The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily represent those of this station or its management.
It's time now for Where You Live with Gene Sullivan, the show that deals with the news and events that affect you the most. Whether you rent or own, live in an HOA, single-family home, or an apartment building, Gene will tackle the issues right where you live. So, from the True North Painting Studios, here's the original man of steel, Resolve himself, who stands for truth, justice, and the association way. Here's Gene Sullivan.
Welcome, everyone, to Where You Live. I'm Gene Sullivan, broadcasting from the True North Painting Studios. When you're looking for the right painting contractor, what do you look for? Isn't it someone who will respect you, your time, your property, and your budget? That's what you can expect from True North Painting. Find out more about this exceptional company by going online at truenorthpainting.com. That's trunorthpainting.com, or give them a call at 952-831-1433. I'm also brought to you by the great folks at Extreme Exteriors and American Family Insurance, the Kim Bennett Agency. Want to say hello, as always, to Christopher Wyatt Earp Huberty, making the show happen. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Gene. How about yourself?
I'm great.
Yeah?
Now, you've got something for us today.
Yes. Now, last week you went 3 for 3 on the bumper music with sitcoms themes from the 90s.
That's right.
And this week, we're going to go with game shows.
All right.
For the most part, 90s and beyond.
All right. So let's... If it were the 60s and 70s game shows, I'd probably get 100%. As a kid, I remember watching probably most of those. But in the 90s, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we'll see what I can do.
All right.
All right. Well, very good. Well, we've got a great show in store. We've got a lot of information to pass on to you. So let's begin with property management in the news. Property management in the news is brought to you by Home Furniture and Abbey Floor Coverings. Their showrooms are staffed with professionals who will help you choose what you need to fit both your lifestyle and budget. Whatever you need, chances are they'll have what you're looking for. Now, if you wish to avail yourself of special pricing you won't find anywhere else, all Where You Live listeners can call Customer Service Coordinator Lori Matson at 952-224-2663. Our first story today is coming out of Toronto, Canada. And this was reported in star.com in their business section just a few days ago. There is a tenants union called the Metro Tenants Association, Federation of Metro Tenants Association in Toronto, and they are decrying right now that there is exploitation going on, specifically to people who are renting units or homes that are in a condominium association. And they feel that this is taking place now in epidemic numbers. It begins by saying the 40-year-old Federation of Metro Tenants Associations is now expanding in hopes of stepping up protections with the exploding new generation of Toronto tenants that are in condominiums. The Federation sees this as taking place in epidemic proportions. So what is it that they are reporting? Well, they said in this news article here, they said that they have noticed that the calls that they get coming in for condominium renters has increased by 85% in 1 year. And because of that, they know that they are needed and a lot more needs to be done. Well, an 85% increase is huge, isn't it? But we need to ask ourselves, what 85% of what? For example, if they only had 5 calls coming in from condominium renters with concerns in 2013, and then in 2014 they had an 85% increase. That would be an additional 4 more calls. So instead of 5, you're dealing with 9. So 85%, you need to ask the question, 85% of what? Well, I went ahead and called the director for the Federation of Metro Tenants Association in Toronto, and his name is Jordy Dent. And I asked Mr. Dent, could you tell me how many calls in a year's time does the Tenants Federation get on concerns about any kind of rental issue at all? And he thought for a moment. He said, probably around 1,000. So we're talking about 1,000 calls a year. And then I asked him, well, of those 1,000 calls, what percent of those calls would you say are dealing with people living in a homeowners association and being concerned about their rights as renters? And he said, probably somewhere between 5 to 10%. Okay, now we've got some numbers that we can put together, and let's do the math, shall we? On 1,000 calls a year coming into that Federation Tenants Association, and 5 to 10% is on matters of renters living in HOAs. That means somewhere between 50 to 100 calls come in a year's time with people who feel that they're being taken advantage of renting in a condominium association. So that puts it in perspective. Well, let's take a look at how many. The next question we need to ask is, how many people are living in HOAs as renters? And we've got that information as well. It says historically with numbers that, again, Mr. Dent was quoted in saying, with what they're watching and tracking, he said they've noticed that probably back in 2006, there were approximately 33,000 and some odd people renting in condominiums. That number, as of today's date, is 77,255. That was in 2013, numbers taken just last year. Well, let's take that 77,255, and how many calls did he get? Maybe 50 to 100? Well, if you divide the number of people living in condominiums by the number of calls that he's received, that means that somewhere between 0.1% of 1% to 0.2% of 1% of the rental population living in condominiums has an issue. Now let me ask you this. Does that sound like an epidemic to you? 0.1% of 1% or 0.2% of 1%. If anybody had failure of less than 0.5% in whatever they do, whatever business model they have, I think most people would consider that a huge success. So is he receiving more calls? Yes, he is. Does he have some concerns about condominium association? I think so. Part of his concerns, though, I think might be not having a complete understanding of the workings of how a homeowner association works and the issues that is fraught with people that are living there as members or people that are renting out their units. And that is why we have our show, isn't it? To be able to bring some explanation and some semblance of order with all of what's going on here. So let's try and do that, shall we? So he's saying that there's 50 to 100 calls out of the over 77,000 folks that are renting in condominiums now. And so we need to ask ourselves, what are some of those hellacious conditions that are taking place right now for renters. The director, Jordy Dent, said condo tenants keep telling us that they feel like second-class citizens to whom the Residential Tenancy Act doesn't apply. Now, the Residential Tenancy Act is just the state statute regarding what you can do in being a good landlord and what you can expect in being a good tenant. And so we need to find out more about that, don't we? But before we do, let's take a break. So don't go away. We'll explore more of this exploitation of renters in HOAs in Toronto. Well, we'll find out after these messages.